These are the two most common bar chord forms that you're going to find when you start to learn the guitar. There are more forms than E form and A form, but these are the most, by far the most common. So the first thing we're going to do is E form bar chords. I'm going to show you how they're built, and then some different types of E form chords, such as major, minor, and so on. And then some exercises, some drills to go through and do some progressions. All right, so here we go. E form, first, we need to do our E chord, this one. Now, what we're gonna do is re-finger this from the standard fingering like this, 2, 3, and 1, to 3, 4, and 2. So it should sound the same, right? We're just using different fingers. Now, this doesn't look very practical to do, although I've actually used this fingering sometimes in songs, but it's not super practical because the first finger is just hanging out over here. The reason for this is we're gonna use this fingering to slide this over 1 fret, and then our first finger is gonna lay down all the way across the first fret to act like a capo, or like the nut, like, you know, moving that forward. So this is why it's called the E form, because if you take your first finger away, it looks like an E chord, right? So again, we have our E chord. We refret it with 3, 4, and 2. Slide that over. Add the first finger. Now the first finger, the bar, a couple tips about this. The butt of the finger is gonna hold down 2 strings. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll practice lifting that first finger off like that. The tip of the low E string, and just try the bottom of the finger and add a little bit of weight onto your hand and see if these last 2 strings work. And then lay this over. Right? Now, you might want to practice like sliding it back or forward like this and find the spot that your finger works the best. This is not going to happen right away for a lot of people, especially if you're playing acoustic guitar. Maybe on an electric guitar it'll happen faster, but acoustic guitar, it's a little bit harder to press the strings down. So, and the first fret, by the way, is the hardest fret to do this. So you can move it to other frets. And now we have a movable bar chord that we can put on any fret, all right? And that's how you make an E form chord. Next thing we need to do is know the note names on the low E string, because another part of this is it's called root 6. What that means is that the name of our chord is gonna be found on this 6th string, or on the E string. So open E. When I play my E chord, that's my root, E. Now when I do this one and I move it over to the first fret, as you can see on the tabs there, fret number 1, that's an F. So now this is an F chord, or an F major chord. Then I slide it over, that 2nd fret is F sharp. So that's an F sharp major chord. 3rd fret is a G. G sharp, A sharp, B, C, there's no B sharp, technically. C sharp, D, D sharp, and E. It's a little harder to get these to work, again, especially if you're doing acoustic guitar and you want to stop around C sharp or D, that's fine. Okay, so that's how you name the chords, and that's basically matching the chord with your first finger on the low E string. One other tip I should say about making this chord, like fretting it, is if you're having trouble, I would like practice this, let's say on the 5th fret, right? And I would practice putting your fingers down first, 3, 4, 2, and then lay your first finger across. All right? A lot of people will say practice the bar finger first and then put the other ones down. I don't like that because it puts the hand out of balance. It kind of puts the first finger real heavy like this, and then the second finger's trying to help it, and the hand sideways, and then you can't reach these fingers. Put the weak fingers down first, lay the first finger across. Then make sure that there's a good space here between 1 and 2. If your first finger is trying to help press the bar down, or I'm sorry, if your second finger is trying to help press the bar down, your hand's going to collapse and it's not going to work. You're not going to get a good like a structure of the hand. Also, it pulls the third finger over and you might get this sound. Or even. All right, so you want to have a nice, clear sound on those. Lay this over, a little bit of space. Okay, now let's take that 5th fret and practice and that one's A, right? So that's an A note, right? So we're gonna play the E form chords here. E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A on this 5th fret. We're gonna do major. This is a major chord. Now, if I want to change that to a minor, just take the 2nd finger off. And now we have a minor chord. So now, again, if wherever I move this, like let's say I move that to the 2nd fret, F sharp, then it's an F sharp minor chord. Or if I did it on the 3rd fret, G, this is a G minor chord. All right, and so on. All right, strings keep going out of tune. They don't like these YouTube lights here. Anyway, okay, so we have major, then we have minor. Now, in order to make a 7 chord or a dominant 7, like A7, G7, those, we're on A now, you know, 5th fret. Do the major chord, lift the pinky. Now, on the 7 and the minor, so this the minor one, and the 7, what's common is that sometimes this little divot in the 1st finger, the bar finger, this little dip right here, will go over one of the strings. So let's say on the minor chord, for example, and that 3rd string is not working. So what I'm going to do is instead of trying to press super hard, I mean, you might want to make sure that your finger's flat, but move the 1st finger this way on the strings to try to find the spot on your finger, everybody's finger is different, where that string doesn't get caught underneath there. All right, so you can hear a good sound there. Also, we still want to make sure that we're pressing down on that middle knuckle too. But then on the 7 chord, so we take that pinky off, we need to make a bar there on the D string. So you want to make sure that you focus that finger in there, pressing down on the D string, just in case there's that little divot or a little bit less pressure there and you're getting a dead sound. Okay, next one, minor 7th. That's where we only have the 3rd finger. Now this one is probably the hardest one to make it sound clear because it's the most notes on the bar. So you have to really focus your mind on pressing down 5 out of the 6 strings on this one. All right. Whereas like the major one, for example, these 3 fingers are covering 3 of the strings. You don't actually have to press down all 6. You can kind of like get some weight on the bottom of the finger and then lay this over here and you have it covered. On the minor 7 one, your 1st finger has to press down a lot of strings, all right? Okay, last one, less common here is major 7. So this one for the E form, I do a couple different ways. This way, except for I try not to hit the high E string. Like I'll stop my pick there. That's one way to do it. The more common is like the jazz fingering way. This is not even a bar chord. So you have your 1st finger dampening the A string with the pad of the finger, and then fingers 3 and 4 are kind of like moved over a string, you know, and then your middle finger here on the B string, and then your hand blocks the high E there. All right, so it's a little less common on this form unless you're playing jazz. One thing about these progressions that are coming up is that they're just a variety of mixing and matching the note names and the chord types. So for example, one of them starts on B minor, right? So I need to find B, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B. Okay, B is on the 7th fret. Now I'm going to match it with the minor shape. That was the one that had the middle finger up, right? And then, you know, another one that says A, for example. If it just says a letter, it means major. So I'm going to find A, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. Here's A. and I'm going to make the major shape, and so on. Okay, so just to summarize, this idea, the theory idea of this is we're taking our different forms of major, minor 7, and major 7, and then matching them with different notes. Then you can practice them in progressions. I would say one thing to just try on your own is take one form and move it around. See if you can slide it around. So for example, taking the first progression we have there, F sharp and A. I purposefully did that so we can just practice sliding this around, dragging it from one to the next. We don't want to do this and then lift up and then try to make the whole chord and lift. We just want to drag it from one to the next. And then if I'm dragging from like a minor to a major, for example, here's a minor, and let's say I'm dragging it down to a major, I don't have to lift the whole thing. All I have to do is just add a finger. And let's say I'm going from a major to a 7, I don't have to lift the whole thing, I just lift the pinky. And then when I go back, I just drag up and add the pinky back down, lifting the second, right? So you want to make those alterations as you're going, all right? Now the one chord that I didn't use was the minor 7. So if you want to like take one of the minor chords and just sub it with a minor 7, that's all good. So try the progressions. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Hopefully this doesn't hurt your hands too much. If it does, take a break. Definitely warm up. One other thing to mention is the thumb. If the thumb is way up here, it's not going to work, right? Because what happens when your thumb goes up, your fingers will bend, right? And so when we're doing a bar chord, if my thumb comes up, my first finger starts to bend. I can't get on the camera. Bend in like this. That's not going to work with a bar chord. So we need to have our thumb flat on the back of the guitar, like thumbs up, and then just kind of posted on the back. I'm in a weird sitting position here to show you this, but all right. So that is where my thumb is going to be, and it's going to be behind the bar finger, all right? So you want it flat on the middle of the neck, right behind the bar, and that's where you want the thumb so that you're not coming up way too, I mean, with other techniques, we might want to do that, right? But for a bar, no.